Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain, the great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, "How should a son of the lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Sharadvati Putra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness. Having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight, and so on, until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so on, up to no old age and death, and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra. The mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the bodhisattva mahasattva noble Avalokiteshvara that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Sharadvati Putra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One.
Lama dong gongpo jizan jambe yang la shang se lo kang ye lo zhe zhen ni zhen zhen ni da na da ra se yue jie ni de ge jie jie se shi ni jie do ga ne bon zi kang do si bie zhe ra ma re me da do ge jie zi yue 罗祖跟了不见到这样拉出这样的松，罗到切着你莫你龙的这照着出自己，马瑞明在东年牛过今年全在这热闹。 年年到节杀节到生，有点就做叫声都有。 就让就当就年就日，大律明生将养老的阿拉巴扎那的，阿拉巴扎那的，阿拉巴扎那的，这点就这钱老日子就。 大律的木面包着些呢，高东的就用路多巴伊，罗着不别弄，热多呀嗦呀嗦，这就修一些也没有呀多，找也人。 高天千遍过年接送的，过送托接我住做多数，偏做给了些人真面过，桃园卓越这我光月送， Mali Shija Zebero Shaji Zuo de la Zuo de Dojo Chenpo de Shi Dojo Chang Chuzi de Lo Bo Dong Na Ro Bo Bian Zhuo Zhong Bian Bo Dong A De Xiang Nyang Ni Xin Lo Ju La Zuo de 上波多灭眼睛当着的，求的对月的当着别别，세상各上的念思念吧，了解是别知了所望的，然人与灭兄弟路中道，大王照波这边可就见。 三界观众宝宝要是说，上门大别就那说完的，协助当别就俺二的想，高当点别门不着的见。 念着那些过去送了说，高当那么那了说完的。 刚见心的自己中华，我到这边我手接着的，当我这边都不给住的，要是就把接了说完的，要中国的老妈多坚强，刚到刚的些年是中的。 说到天魔无主孙子比，纯洁老妈那老说话的，让家说着跟老大爷比，给上他把这边就我就，在远这边他看这把爷，孙子新年那老说话的。 借我更多养到老妈的，人民去这边了龙世界，撒到了这云的少做的，多久讲给个牛到手上的，就当做的就当了，想就把多到年就是的。 大概去这边做那，到了边是上街住不住，上街就当做这就当那，想就不多到年就是这，大概去这边做那去，到了边是上街住不住。 上街就做街就那想就不多到年就做，大概去就别做那街，到了平时上街就不有。哎呀，哎呀，当然这他妈跟了结吧，跟了结吧，是吧？ 또 토마 기능 줘 근데 더 집에 담아 저기 사게 전에네 나 저기 창소지 제고 더 집에 담아 사게 된 아니 집에 담아 저 때문에 나한테 신체 대신 년에서 뺏게 좀 뭐지 그 zanzalang a zong就是多点么的休息节些下一多我可就做一年当中这几节呢去下次我的接当中今年没报的下个点呢可看上这下着年看多等着去刚头的起码教育呢
So let's begin with cultivating appropriate motivations. Cultivating appropriate motivations, which is a tradition of the great masters of the past. This needs to be followed by we as his follower or we as the disciples of those great masters. As we have a saying in Tibetan, which says that the stories of the great masters of the past must be followed by the practitioners of the future. So therefore, it is very important for all of us to to follow the tradition, the proper way of receiving the teachings and giving the teachings, and whatever the requirements that is required to be done, prior to one's teaching should be done, because it is due to the circumstances. Sometimes we tend to skip those, processes of the requirements of what is to be done prior to one's teachings, and doing something that is very convenient for oneself. Sometimes I feel this is also one of the, it will contribute to be a degeneration of one's own, the way of receiving the teachings and so forth. So therefore, it is important that we do our best to really to follow and complete the requirements that are required prior to the teachings.
당가서 되게 찾아나겠지. 아니, 다 나초기 제가 가서나 나초기 뇌를 하되 가서나 아니 문제지 동해 들어와. 아니 소소를 거액이래와 차서 뇌비 대화 들어와. 난 뇌비 대화 연비 된다라. 아니 뇌비 대화 아니 예상이게 아니 주부 담반나라 아니 지야 정주시 아니 동해는 용심에 선제되더라. 아니 로봇 체계에서 해야 돼. 아니 추억이 렉가들. 추석이 샤와.
So now, if we look at ourselves, and we know that what we do not desire is we do not desire for sufferings. And what we aspire to attain is we aspire to attain happiness. And this is the hope that we always have in our mind, that hoping for achievement of happiness and so on. So it is for this purpose, overcoming sufferings and achievement of one's happiness. We're following the footsteps of the great teachers of the past, and cultivating a faith towards them, and committing oneself to working for the welfare of other sentient beings.
인자는 다 맞추기야 저희 때라니 지다 장장 장소 거버서는 뭐 타예 뭐 매매버 지려 되나 딱 알아 저기 때 레던 저와게 거스 버버데 아니 단다 거기 지데 아니 덤버 투병 뭐 아니 도만페 아니 대내에서는 뭐 전화를 집에 남아나지 가서 라라를 취나네 근데 단다 버도 투도 인자는 근데 맞추기 뭐스 저 지서 때라 아니 덤버 투병 뭐 라를 집에 남아나 거대 대지.
So certainly when speaking about cultivating a faith towards the great beings of the past, it is certainly infinite. It's something that cannot be measured, something that cannot be fathomed. However, the particular, the masters of the past, whom we have connection, is Buddha Shakyamuni, who came to this world to teach the Dharma and transmit his teachings to the great masters of Lam Rim lineage masters, and all the way to one's own teachers. So therefore, at this point, as we have the closest connection is to the Buddha Shakyamuni, so that we're visualizing Buddha Shakyamuni surrounded by all the great teachers of the lineage, lineage teachers of Lam Rim. Sorry.
다 대나기를 선진이 소차 선진이 리더의 동행진지 선jal라다 모두 타진이요 말이 이나 소소는 저와차서기 소소 체대의 전쟁이 파만해서데 소소 대사기 좀 아니 유칸 델라네비 선진이 해서데 바타예비 선진아 미바체 드레지 예네 미바체 아니 란다 라냐세로다 내가 좀 지바 두제 지바 인자네 아니 지바 지장래 그 상치 인자네 대다 아닌데네 저희 지사들에서 대바체 내게 미지바기 선제되다라 hin지잖아 대바다 hin지니게 생비도네 맞아 미나 대치 소소 셈발로 초아해비 된다 미나 대치 제게인다.
Similarly, being oneself in their presence and surrounded by all sentient beings. So speaking about sentient beings, of course, again here the sentient beings are infinite. It's a measureless. innumerable sentient beings, but we should try our best to visualize beings whom we have, uh, you know, connections, and then expand one's visualizations. Those all beings who are also surrounded by other sentient beings, and try one's best to visualize as fast as one could, and then uh, think about that as all we all have a common goal. All sentient beings, including oneself, has a common goal of achieving happiness and overcome sufferings. And so therefore, with this in mind, one should cultivate towards, as we spoke earlier, uh, the, the faith towards the object of refuge and the compassion towards all sentient beings. And with this visualizations, let's take a couple of minutes to meditate on.
다 드르게 끊어 치바 지내는 가족이 가르쳐 버려 선대로와 이게 되게 단다 제기 인사라고 아니 제발라 아니 제시대 해거를 셔발라 동부 토그로 토발라 아니 지다 간제 개개 선are 라마 선are 아니 지진 저토 아니 토대 토대한테 녀선에 녀 토비 되니라 아니 세지도 주바체 아니 주바체는 얘대 코는 콤베체네 아니 선제 단지게 되제 네바지 네 차여바지 다 당마 속에 소도 전체 자이 남만에 zonde 상제는 제니 말한테 정소 체라한테 제쇼 송지 내가 속에 단단하게 제시 말을 제서라 가서 친히 제시 미용데 내가 데려와.
So with these motivations, what we were doing is we have cultivated appropriate motivations for the welfare of other sentient beings, and working for the welfare of other sentient beings, in other words. And how do we work for the welfare of other sentient beings? We should understand the proper way of working for the welfare of other sentient beings. In order to do that, one need to first have a proper listening to the teachings of the Dharma that are given by the great masters. And this will then be followed by the contemplations and then the practice or the meditations. It is by means of those process of learning, contemplation, and meditations, one develop one's spiritual quality, that you will be able to work for the welfare of others sensibly. You will, you know how to properly work for the welfare of other sentient beings, and you will be able to have the ability to work for the welfare of other sentient beings. This is done by the great beings of the past, our including one's root teacher, root guru, and the teachers of the past have done the same way of listening, contemplating, and practicing, and and developing their qualities and work for the world for that sentient beings. We as their followers, we also should do the same.
Tele Kodewa Shesona, Masuki Lojo Jede, and Major Lojo Jaboro, Major Lojo Joe, and if he had the tone in Nasatel country penguin, not set the country CVD, then Digi Major did Yujumasu Jing Nasa the Manjawaje, and me but Mishipi me but the Sego in that, Mishipi may be in Nasa the Sepan, taught in Derry Senate, and they don't know to change your war.
So one should receive the teachings and practice oneself as the individual who is actually going through the process of training or learning in a medical field, where they know how to, what kind of medicine that is appropriate, it is suitable for the certain sicknesses, and how and what dosage of medicine will actually cure the sickness of the individual, and so on and so forth. So, however, when it comes to the curing our sicknesses, it is unlike the common sicknesses. It is not a sickness that can be pinpointed, but rather it is the sickness that here we're referring to the darkness of our ignorance. This is the sickness that we are trying to get rid of. So therefore, in order to get rid of such sickness, we need to have a skillful means or the method that really becomes a remedy for the removal of such sickness.
여기다 당한테 던지기 강치바셔 유치되네 상주 랑제림바 상주 랑제림바 자이사지제 아니 죽은 쯤바 땜비신 저밥이 채와 당하라 기바지비시 추지 채와 저와니다 땜비 채라니 시제다셔 담방거지 랑마지 대지 림바스 자이사지제 대지 손절하지다.
So now here, let's move on to the subject matter of the text by reading the first four major outlines of the great deities on the stages of the path to enlightenment, Lam Rim Chenmo, which begins from the greatness of the authors given in order to show the teachings have novel source. Second, showing the greatness of the teachings in order to engender respect for the teachings. Third, the greatness of the enabling one to know that all of the teachings are free of contradictions. Fourth, the greatness of the enabling one to understand that all of the scriptures are instructions for practice.
다 자이사지 제바데 용어지데 자이사지 제바데제 아니 던주기 자이 용데라 진짜 간데 대발 가는 거 가는 거 주거잖아 아니 런치 자와 신예 때 아니 때네 로치다장 이름 봐서 아니 뒷면적 안 도와셨고.
So then those are the four major outlines will then be followed by another important outlines are the how to rely on the teacher or the spiritual teacher, which is the root of one's path, and how the students train their minds after having relied on the teachers.
다 때너로 제다장 런치 자와 신예 때 비치다 때너로 제다장 이름 봐니지 다 때너로 제다장 이름 봐라니 대대나 님볼렘비시 그와다 님보 제다렘비 추니지 다 동본지사 다 님보 제다렘비 추되라야 니지 런치 나자랑 님보 제스다 님볼렘지 응어지 다 동본지사 다 님볼렘지 응어되라 송제 주베 중요다 대모에 랑제를 마냥서는지 주변 제다 대모에 랑제를 마냥서는지 주베 챔비 랑제를 마냥서는지 다 동본인데 지사 다 주베 챔비 랑제를 마냥서는지라 자이사제 송제 Teaching Jubi, what number Saint Kona Demba, Saint Juda Jibi, Saint in the Shobala, Lutsuye. That they know your company in this, that Saint in the Shobala, Rositella, and it's a such a Sonji, Saint in the Shobala, Logubi, Jansen, Lobara, Lobe Sanja Menjuba, Demba, Lobala Lobe, Rimba Nisheba, that company in this, that Lobala Lobe, Rimba Nisheba, the line, such a Ninja, and Tibachimbo. Tibachimbo Chilla, the Chiba, the Passion Tibala, or the Doji Tibala, CH. And it Tombotella, Ni Pajatibala to the Niche. The Sonje. And it Shanse Jalabala, Londe Jawa, and it Jana Jesse Nambazo, Zone Jetalo Bitsuge. That Tomboni Jita, that Zone Jetalo Bitsu, Niche, Sonje. Kana Lobby, Loba Munzewa, and the Gala Lobana Dizu, and Loba Lobby Rimba Nishebas, Lobala Lobby Rimbashebas. The Lobala Lobby Rimbashebas in the line, Ninja, and the Shobachala Loza, the Chebato, and the Pasha Tamanila Lotsuj, the Tombola Ninja, and the Rangi Sanji Chula, Rangi Sanji Chupibashi, and the Paro de Shibatu. Parish Shimbata, and is Jinju Bashiva, do you know Bosia, and Tatombola, such a true Shimba, Sutri, Zobas, Sundri, Sunday Shirauchi, Tatombozimbing all Lotzi, like such a Jichi, Zimbing, the Jebal and Jubiato, and Zimbiroye, the dog turned the bus. Tamato Katu shares on any, Tibachimbi Chula, Lotzi, the Katu Gene, Tibachimbi Shanju, Saint Jene, and it just said Jalapa Lobora. That just said Jalapa Logubin on it, just said Jalobi Lobatella, Lotzi Loba True. Several Parashim, but Jula Lozino, and it should be Pasiana Candela with a essay, such a.
So we are on the particular chapter that is under the headings of the great, the trainings the mind in the stages of the path with a person of great capacity, under which following the teachings of how to cultivate the bodhicitta and how to practice bodhisattva's deed. When it comes to the how to practice bodhisattva's deed, there are primarily of 6 kinds, such as practice of generosity, morality, and so on and so forth. And out of all the 6 perfections, we are on the particular chapter where we're receiving or discussing the teachings on the practice of generosity.
I don't know, as Zimbi wants and the Zimbasana, Sena get Tambun Zimbati Machi, or Seni, Kazan Zimbati, and Leonosha Jabuta Jabala, and Susu Gage Jawamabache, and Ronde Shi Sambatone, and Yonsu Zobashi, and Bashila, and Tony Sambachila, and Zimbasan Lagres.
So now here the nature of the generosity. What is the nature of generosity? So the nature of generosity is whatever the gift that is given to others given to others, it should be done without any without stinginess, in other words, with no stinginess, with the lack of stinginess, that whatever that you have given to others, and including one's even body, one's resources, and so on and so forth, that one should have courage to give away your body and resources and so on and so forth for other sentient beings, the wealth of other sentient beings, solely for the wealth of other sentient beings, without any stinginess or the miserly.
And Santa Meba Chico Jigo Santa Nirang Pansareda, Santa Nirala Cario Marison, Lilon Shiganso Java, Jella Tong, Soso Yoton, Jedem Bashila Sanatoi, Lot Yomarsoimba.
So then here, we already covered that during our previous teachings, that, free of stinginess is also, the quality of free of stinginess is even achieved by the Pratitya Buddhas and Charvakas. However, when it comes to the bodhisattva's practice, the difference between the bodhisattva's practice, bodhisattva and this Pratika and Sherpaka Buddhas, is that working solely, practicing generosity solely for the welfare of other sentient being is not present. It is not in their practice. It's not included in their practice.
당가서 거스버 가르잖아. 아니 짐바 동비 편에다 님이 시비 돈에 아니 짐비 파생은 년에 가는 줄 그랬어야 돼. 내가 다가라지. 맞아 간 생진에 대해서 랑지는 줘도 간데 제거잖아. 아니 님이 통비 돈에 아니 님이 따네 매보소야. 이한테 통비 돈에 되니 전에 아니 간저는 년에 제야 돼. 아니 생들랑지를 제도 생들.
So now here in brief that we are learning how to practice, how to engage in the practice of generosity by having a proper understanding of the benefits of the practice of generosity and proper understanding of the disadvantages of not engaging in the practice of generosity. So this is how we actually develop our spiritual quality within us, by understanding the benefits of the practice and the disadvantages of not practicing. So trying to abandon that opponent and then opponent factors and try to develop something that is new, which needs to be developed. And this is how we develop our inner quality, or the spiritual quality.
당간 조인다. 니들 손자들 된지 된지도 단단하니 코치 뱀버스는 배야나 손자 된지 된지 당연 로인다. 게이 자원 게이 자와 최종 강시 탕제 선제를 내고도 타투도 펜데 자체 주비 된도 삼바 타바네 호신 이바다나 아니 선제 레레라 템비 스나 데니 타바 So
we're on the page 117. We're beginning from this paragraph. We have completed reading all those verses last time, the verses of the Compendium of Perfections. We have covered that. Now we are on the paragraph where it starts that if you dedicate from the depth of your heart all roots of virtue, however great or small they may be, for the sake of accomplishing both temporary and ultimately extensive benefit and happiness for all living beings, and then give something, you obtain merits related to each living being. Hence, you easily complete the collection of merits, the precious Kalian states.
Tati kuala yung nga tsuki, inchi michi nga tsuki shimpa tongkuru sedi mati chi joten shu yinbi tsonandi chi, tiki tsonandi peti nga tsu nochi jawa. Rangi rangshin tisung di geyi tsawa kansaba tangchi yenla huaba wa yenla tongba. Ani tujing senpa ki tsonandi la, pati jinzi chigi mani wade katiyo na senpa, jinwa ki jibi ki jala yinbi sondi chigi, susu tsonandi detu gugudwa. Kuala yung toti.
So here now it's clearly stated that when speaking about practicing generosity, it doesn't necessarily be the person who is engaged in the practice of generosity must be a very rich or very wealthy person so that he or she can practice generosity. But rather, here the generosity, as we spoke earlier, it is a state of mind where your thought of giving is free of stinginess. That is what is meant by the practice of generosity. So therefore, you can actually practice generosity by dedicating your merits that you have accumulated for 3 times. This and your root of virtue that you have accumulated can be dedicated, which will become a practice of generosity.
Tendrige huwa de tendrige 가서 뭐 슈첨보 선에 진짜 슈첨보 지선 선제 레레라 템비 선나야 초도 달라도 조도 성도 근데 초 달라도 조세 템 배전제 제목고 같이 상박이 전화 코너기 강사라니를 조조연제
So then if you're able to do this, you obtain the merit related to each living being, it says. And you easily complete the collections of merit.
rinpoche tingwa le che teke jebi sana kang kete tene zu jen jur gangi shema jeni che jeten kang tu mishung jur tene changden de je song ten si changden de la tang senjen kang je tseme la pen de tene tenda wo she so song do.
So then here it says, where the merits of saying this, to have a physical form, it would not fit into the universe as numerous as the grains of the Ganges sand. The Bhagavan said this, and there is a logic to it. And the expense of living being is immeasurable. The merits of the wish to have them is the same.
대체 때로가 좀 이제 이렇게 적으면도 스나이 장카르르다 심 에네 치기 칠의 영역이 심하게 장다냐 봐. 게스 게데 주스치는 제대 칸의 미숑이 된지게 선은 줄어 좀 사거를 선도.
So it says, if you were to compare our merits that we have accumulated, where if the merit is to have a physical form, it would not fit in the universe as numerous as the grains of the Ganges River.
된지게 가서 제체 산업 또는 제체기 저대체 산업 또는 제체 여바도 제체 통발에 선도. 선제기 변화 내려와 선제를 시하는 메시마데 다 간지 선제기 뇌바도 삼바 탄소래. 선제기 뇌바 용서 컨트롤하나 선제기 뇌바도 냥바게 아니 선제랑랑이 가와데 데바스지로 대지해 요거라. 대지해 소하이나 아니 델레발리게 아니 선나지 사바다 맞서 리피 포토로와. 댄시잖아요. 델라 항도 소데 댄스 제체 산업 또는 시도도 소.
So one can comprehend this, the result of our generosity logically. It is not something that it should be lived solely on the belief and the faith, but rather it can be proved logically. Because here now, if you're able to work for the welfare of other sentient beings, such as engaging in the practice of generosity, will fulfill the wishes of other beings. And as you fulfill the wishes of other beings, what we're doing is we're actually, making them happy. Whomever you are helping is making them happy. As they gain such happiness by means of your practice of generosity, will, as a result, you will accumulate merits, and that is the merit which cannot be measured.
데 셰바단 자오 셰소어지 제어서 동아 페와라 바도 줘봐다 세나 페와 동세 마제바 메제바다 제바 냥바시비 코던 요제나 하유 미존신 제제제나 말랑바샤데 파셰드발레 손도.
So here it says, furthermore, do not hold on to the companions and belongings that have prevented you from increasing your ability to give things away, that have intensified your stinginess, that have stopped the development of previously absent inclination to give, or that have weakened your inclination to give. Do not take on this kind of companions or accept this kinds of material gifts, even if others offer them. Sorry.
대단한 거에 내서 지로 거에 내서 가서 배필로지 되는 거래. 매도 좀데 지를 차신이라 차스해야 되는. 근데 소소기 지 선바 전에 자천보다 이제라 전에 또마라마 녀라 강가 잘라 될라 되는 소도 왜나 되게 잘라지야나 아니 대 당대 면송소도 아니 계시 되게 잘라진다 지기 천안을 째대요 산나야 폐야당 양지 진바 동양에 로미 제메징에 아니 진바 동산에는 양징에 아니 종업을 잘라 자치마 가려서나 아니 장래에나 메보소쇼 쟁게잖아 말해서.
So here now, if it's a very clear, if you know that there's something, whatever the material things that you may, possess, if you know that this is the thing that really, bring you all those complex situations or the unwanted situations, why would we really have attachment towards that? But this actually creates a complexity of one's life. It is not a worthwhile to cling on to it. And even if someone give us something, or when someone offer us something that you think probably will become an object of attachment, and something that will prevent you from engaging practical generosity and so on, and you should not accept such things as well.
다티 시제기 논선에 저된 파세 되발레 세네 전에 관계 폐저랑 용서 동생 폐와 면제위 용제 게스 제베 로와다 장추 셈바 말이 용서 방 간시 동생 녀보 줘바다 신양다 장추 랑라 지시나 되는 노랑 전체 제시장 장추 셈바 랑와 여바 미 시에서 손도들
Now, the compendium of the perfection states, Bodhisattvas give up all positions that intensify the faults of stinginess or that do not expand generosity, the deceiver that becomes an obstacle. Bodhisattvas should not accept jewels, wealth, or even a kingdom if it would harm their generous attitude and obscure the path to perfect enlightenment.
그래서 어떻게 데레데 세보 쉬지로 세보 세보로 당가서 당가서 주변 담박이 나타던 시에 당가서 담바 투비 한번 이나야 지시 먼저 친내 친매 바로도 좀디 맞아 보통 보면 나타 가르제 제신다 연습반에 있는 로스 상주 친내 친매 바로도 좀세데 뭐쳐데 되게 된질라 차선의 범비 제시에네 말 범비 되는데 같이네 친내 로도 좀하더라 근데 코로나를 카드 송도 아니 된다이 럼보칭이 리나리 제시이나야 아니 상주 삼반나지 랑고마리 방그레 송도.
So it's very clear, something that is very closely connected to the Buddha's life story here. Buddha Shakyamuni, if you look at the stories of the Buddha Shakyamuni, Buddha, abandoned his palace, belongings, resources, even his own, the luxurious, the princely existence have been abandoned, and then become a bhikkhu, fully ordained beings to practice. So all of this is to actually cultivate a detachment, to eliminate the attachment towards one's belongings. So therefore, it's very clearly, stated here, Bodhisattvas give up all positions that intensify the faults of stinginess or that do not expand generosity. And then it went on to say that jewels, wealth, or even kingdom, if it would harm the generous attitude and obscure them, obscure the path of the perfect enlightenment, Bodhisattva will not accept such gift.
그 강의 단단한 좀 실루되는 라 용진 생기지도 Did not use this and a gig on the Cassation, did you use this thing and Jala no you mean it so.
That's so.
The ancient country mission was pay you know, because I had to see it on my quality when you use this thing and not you mean it so. Japan.
Tagaran teach you Japsha.
Okay, they need to message him. I just said, not the paper something lots of one. Young as well, see Kashi and Makwali and the dining band of Tanichi with the Dandale city chart, Charuda. And that I know. And Joe, she saw it. Data ship it says, Sene, Yosela Chapan Juna, Tuba, Tupe. 도바 탄체 땅에 상추 샘 상추 두바 땅 다장 대위 지스 로바 당자와 템바 셰데 다게 하 류롱셰 게와 탄체 선젤라 땅에 다영 로셰라 차바셰나 다게 쇼바네 람보체 니메 동와나 추슈네 추셰진 강라 레네 살란 제도 셰베 류라 상고바 토네 하영 춘주바 춘주 대내 하신 시바당 저원형도 선에 맞춰봐 샤데 되니래 송도.
So when you act in this way, stinginess may lead you to feel attached to your goods. If so, become unattached, become unattached by thinking. The sage reached enlightenment after he gave away every position previously recalling my commitment to emulate him. I gave away my body, every resource, and all my virtue to all living beings. If I'm still attached to resources, I am behaving just like an elephant oppressed by the sun, who goes into the water and bath, and then back on the dry land, rolls in the dirt, and then again after it sees that it is covered in dirt, it goes back into the water and does the same thing over again.
that's it. 그래서 제 가족이 준비 편한데 님에도 선나지 담배가라 아니 소소게 천안 가지 용거데 선나도 천안 용비가 될지 류롱식 연소다 제발로 슈정모 슈지 차고요나 아니 덤비 나타 된거 손도 아니 덤비기 때문에 제발해서 덤비 제발 맞아 가지고 샤주 생이 이는 담발레면 되게 온다 떠서나 아니 류롱식 제 선전에 피차바이 아니 다 되는 제는 지금 말해서는 마도 세네 님이다네 아니 런도 만화하지 마자와이나 아니 런보치 춘는 조바양 캄보차양 춘는제양 담바쇼양 춘는제 바나기 아니 제는 다랑 코아선 다랑 코도 벌선도
So when we are reflecting on the faults or the advantages and the disadvantages of the practice of generosity and the disadvantages of the not disadvantages of not engaging in the practice of generosity. So when you have upon such reflections, if you have not been able to generate any kind of special feeling within you, or you may have something that still you're attached, very strongly, you have a strong attachment towards something that belongs to oneself, then it is appropriate for you to, remember the stories of the Buddha. Not only that, but also if you are able to remember the Bodhisattva's vows that you have received during the receiving of the Bodhisattva's vows, you're committing yourself to give away everything that you have, your belonging, even your body, so on and so forth. If you are unable to do that, then we will become like elephants, rolling back, getting into the river and taking a bath and coming back to the dirt. I mean, coming back to the land and then again rolling on the dirt and then going back to the river and so on. So this is how we will, revolve ourselves within this cyclic existence.
Tese nga tso pe nyanyo senare kongshi tong pe ke chenpo pe nandere che nyane chengen tere na ji jibu tamba tsoge nata yang so logo pe ke chenpo song da ji laba da nga tso pe lo ji no ne ji malage nata yore tembi nata yore jibu tamba ro da rimba ke nata tene do nata de lo de so so le sembo la chona le ba da de ji nyanyo tong na ra yin sa ro nga tso lomba khashila tende ye pu dela logo shu chemo yongo na ni ma ye ten re to no lo la ni yang sa so lo che da an de mun da ji ten ye lo da de ko samba ge chona de de da ro.
So we as a practitioner, it is very important that we should really read, take our time to read those stories of the great masters, such as the Milarepa, and also, Buddha Shakyamuni, the Buddha's, life stories. And this will really, provide a condition for preparing oneself to really to follow their footsteps. But it's very, very important because, you have to create certain environment that really serve as, as a foundation for your development of your practice, such as generosity and so forth.
다 nga so la ta do ga go re sa na da nga so gi samba chapo de le zo go wa samba chapo de le zo gi ta la number tang de jen ma do ka tu pe gi ji gang je ne ju to ya ka bo wa ni ji nga so ma do go wa ma so no lo mo chu no bo go so de cha do wa ni za ne ko ka le number tang je no ne samba de beyond de samba de le zo gi ta da la ni jibu tambe natalo ni ji sosa dejan che jong no mo ma xie xia de la ni sa na dong ga je de de chen ne ji de ji de ma ta xie dong ma do ma su doji ken ji chen ne ni ya je ro xie de junior ma ro.
So here, it is important for us to apply all kind of methods and skillful means to really to subdue our mind, which is very solid and so hard to subdue. It requires a lot of, efforts and skillful means. So it is through this application of those methods and skillful means, we're able to soften our minds and loosen our minds. So therefore, it is always good to read those the stories of the great teachers, masters of the past, and engage in the practice of accumulation of merits and purifications, and followed by studying the great TATs or the texts that are written by the great teachers.
Ta nga so la de tu go pe na nga so jirom bo ching ne ji pe ka je jong la ta ka je sun che no nge da tin ji le jong chu din jab je ne ti ji le nang de ye pa je ne ha la nyen da nang ye cha bi ko de ne ji la ne ji zen ja be yang ye ne ta da che shi bi ko mi ne cho sa ji ja je jong che mo lang ne je ne sun je che shu se ne sha de be de ne ga chong de ji je na nga so ju bu tang ba ye ne ga sa de ji ye nyang le la de ne chong wa re da ji je na nga so gi pa dan de re so ni de ba ke cha me shi wa ye na ne to ne go ye ge che ji le bi da ro se le ji na go go ye bi da ro.
So if you look at, we as a ordinary practitioners, were initial practitioners, suddenly we really need to engage in the practice of accumulation merits and purifications. If you look at the Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa's biography, where you will see that Lama Tsongkhapa is able to explain all profound teachings of the Buddha at that time. And followers, there were thousands and hundreds and thousands of the followers, even having a vivid vision of the Manjushri. Even then, Manjushri advised Lama Tsongkhapa to still engage in the practice of accumulation, merits and purifications, and still study further, undergo further studies of the great deities that are written by the great masters, and so on. So here now, from one hand, it might be setting an example for his followers, and from the other hand, and this is what we should be doing. This is what we, the practitioners, should be followed.
Teni le, tanga me tuwe, teni le, pashi dubara, teni le. Tuba nangji shunchu ten she shin, desho rangi tangcha san she de, yonzin chaba namba sevi shirar, senla tobe tangban deda to, roa kin la daa ki lu tangde, detan chocha daa ki pan she ne, shiro ngompo daa ki cha shawa, lambi chuyen daa la ripa mi she so, deta tang yu pyo mando sa ne, ane di ganda she so pata loro chita.
Also, the compendium of the profession says, recalling the superior deeds of the sage, strive at them and reflect on your commitment. Understand the following excellent thoughts in order to clear away your attachment to things. I give away my body to all beings. Then I relinquished the virtue of this gift. By being attached to external object is senseless, like an elephant's bathing.
Chidang di tenda gangi tenda chipare ko chi karsa manchun deri pene javten je long se javten ge long da tsema long da ripa se de jong chemun de he jang de se yin chi mi chi ni javten ge long tsema ra da ni ripa tsema da ne ni khepa da sema song yong ro laba da nga chu che shi de chubu de ni kan la to go na gi en chubu de ya na jajong ya na sanje ge song de de la pa kong tu na song do.
So those are the authentic text, that verse that we find here, that which can be traced back to the teachings, the source of the teachings. Whenever the great teachers, the scholars, when they teach us, they not only just use their logical sense, they not only use their reasonings, but also the combination of both reasonings as well as the quotations, taking the verse from the different teachings. So we can trace those by listening to those verses. We'll be able to trace the teachings and all the way back to the source of the teaching itself.
Teta tang yi pyo mang de san ne, zheba chenpo tang, yung su zong yi nimi san bi go ne, juba chenpo, jiba ra me zida, jiba chenpo jeni na, tong yi lo ngang ki je wo song tu deri.
If you're able to generate intense delight as you contemplate the many benefits of giving things away, and great fears as you are as you reflect on the faults of tight-fistedness, you will naturally produce a generous attitude.
Let's
Let's take a 10 minutes break here.
Ay, como churesta. So je me je so je me do zhong zhe zhao ne je nian de jian bo de san je zhe do min de be wo zhuo ge na da xin la zhe bo zhou ye na gu zhou min zhe na go na yang da ya me ji. 哎，就是修仙的处对嘛，是吧？啊，给你们。
Now again, ke tanda how much kunzu kashi she de nga tanda chilo don le.
呀呀，
kunzu kashi she de.
嗯，哎呀，那个我注意的，你的马上就是这个上的，这把这都是俺家啥州的，呀呀，他去的感觉也比较的，俺开始谢谢了，你去了我就买那里面差不多那个期间的这嘛的，
kashi she da ni gang jun jun ji ma de nga shura de ke yo ma da rum che ko jong go.
嘿，你那个没做下老点多的，不是，呀呀。 哎呀，当俺这里的可都呢，但是俺的这些的，但是得了，他妈的了，得到当一片上呢，你俺说，对那了看了呢，这别把那了，这把全部谁的搞的，多全部搞过多，你一边片上呢，到时候呢，看啥让你了，你搞的多全部用过多，你们的度假营不，通说呢得了几百件呢，你当有了等行业借用去，可这当的让心着。
That's all. So here now it is, the reflection on the benefits or the advantages, the disadvantages of the practicing generosity, not practicing generosity. So it's just if you are able to generate intense delights as you complete the many benefits of giving things away, and great fears as you reflect on the faults of stinginess.
啊，
You will naturally develop a generous attitude. Sorry.
대신的想把的年纪让我的，叫我设计的能把他把了，说把上边太阳是当山节把下午送的，这几天的选举来送的。
So here it says now, accordingly generate the thought of giving away everything to others at the conclusion of cultivating love and compassion, or the conclusion of reflecting on the life stories of the conquerors or his children, and so forth, engaging in the bodhisattva states, how this is done.
啊，我说你当然的，想把的年纪公平等着说呢，你看了没啥意思，东海经济生经了，在我当切人着我的，在我切人着说呢，你第一段的两个节了，修切人着的是不是这样了？
So here it is very clear, if you're able to, make a further development of your love and compassion, will naturally, intensify your sense of caring and sense of connectedness towards other sentient beings. And if you are able to intensify your sense of caring and sense of connectedness with others, we will then naturally enables you to engage in working for the welfare of other beings.
那叫我说的这边，那他来上那开始当那么多呢，他你申请了先把当然的，申请了当然的时候多，你这家的我所以的话，可是你就多把钱了，我们去年点把代表主要是的，去送吧的，去拿吧的，去银巴了，银巴了，因此呢，银巴嘛都申请点钱给要嘛了。
So here now, here it says, regardless of, how much reflect your mind upon the stories of the Buddhas or the Bodhisattvas. At the end, the practice of generosity is all about. The practice of which enables one to actually perfect one's practice of generosity, will become a source, a cause for one's own statement of enlightenment. So here, Buddha has stated very clearly that Buddha said, I may not be able to transfer my realization to others. What I could do is I will uh, do so by engaging in the giving of teachings of suchness. It is therefore, this is also, which also belongs to one of the practice of generosity.
대체 타동 생제와지 다 등득이 생제체는宣주래지 레동 대전론 쇼동 대송교와 당제장 생제 근제 등주 시를 방법면과 당와시 시송바다 류론쇼 게자송 미유의 시는 생제 당제라 300 당와시 당와오서도
So here, the Bodhisattva's deed states how to do it, how this is done. It says, I will give away without a sense of loss my body and my resources, as well as all my virtue from the past, present, and future for the welfare of all living beings. You focus on three things: your body, your resource, and your root of virtue, and mentally give them away to all living beings.
대체 대송한테 된거라 게사 손세데 뒤송도 사비 개와 세드로야 뒤송도 사비랑 장신 신제나지 뒤송도 사비 개와데 마차되자네 아니 신제라 아니 내가 간에 제고도 세데 간제 게사 맞선을 맞선도 총지전에 마차 가르자 그래서 게자자 그세지어라 가사디 총이 자를 게자체 총이 맞아자세요나 이게 아니 신바 동아에 면자데 게자자 아니 강제랑게 친코집에서 만드나 대양 타협의 선제단지 때때 대화용이 된다는 신 거에들.
So this, the practice, I mean, the yoga, it is, the virtue from the past, present, and future are said to be the foundation of developing one's spiritual qualities. It is also it is like a merchant who would have a capital, the ample capital for doing their business. In other words, just like in order for us to work for the welfare of other sentient beings, we have the solid foundations of our virtue that we have, the merit that we have accumulated from past, present, and future.
대단 도파 탕체라 랑긴 즘비 세반도네 젠라 돈이 삼바 양도 양도 장와나 샹추 삼바 샤데 파제 되발레스 샹추 삼바스는 건지 드네질 제도.
So now the next paragraphs, it reads, how do we really identify someone as a bodhisattva, where here we read, if you stop the craving that conceives everything to be your personal property, and then repeatedly condition yourself to the attitude of giving it all away to others, you will be called a bodhisattva.
네. 대강이 가서 노바 탕체세에 대해 배우노라 아니 노제라 거기도 치.
Now,
인치 다가는 돼.
now,
인치를 노바세에 대해 노제라 준대.
Tokpa Admite.
대강의 대단 노바 탕체세.
Deda Tokpa Tangi.
바다노
Boda Tokpa. Deda Tokpa Tangila.
대가 소에는 노제 거기도 노제.
Rangir Zimbe Sedina. If you stop craving, then everything to your personal property, then repeatedly condition yourself to the attitude of giving away.
노제생다 노제 노제 탕체라 아니 샹추 같아서 가르쳐고서나 노제라 소벨료 노제 탕체라 짐바데 까루 세바세디 차바된도
Davana Resha.
차바된도
Craving conceives everything be your personal properties within. So can you have dige chazang nanglo, can you have dige chazang slap shang?
Deda le sepi, deda ke sepi, sepa den do. Ani, sepa den do betene, ani, yoba de, jen la tongi, semba yang da yang, yang ba ngi, tenri ki lo da ji gar sarwa. Sepa do ba de, nyerang le yoba, yoda yang, sepa den do tsadi ki, ani, yoba de, jen la pecho tong ba de, ani, teme le yoba marwa, da shang chu sembi teme mo chi chu. 대야 가서 치장지 말어. 내 단지 넣어 나기 류동로 식 견도 잡아대. 저지 가서는 미게 단도는 또 유의야 손이 지로 잘라디.
So here now again, it also distinguish between the practice, not having craving. The craving is actually craving towards desired object is abandoned by even the Charvak and Pratyeka Buddhas. So what is different again the Bodhisattvas and this Charvak and Pratyeka Buddhas is although there are not much difference in terms of abandonment of craving, but when it comes to the further practice, on top of abandoning the craving, it's a working for all other sentient beings. It's exclusive practice to the Bodhisattvas. Such practice is not actually, involved in the practice of Charvak and Pratyeka Buddhas.
텔레 거대와 시에서나 그게 세나든 저바 천재 빠나야 진진 라니 단다 통치를 당한테 니랑 여들 진진랑 진진세네 라니라 가쇼 세네레 차바데 말에다 건제 진지 슈체를 줘래 나다 상주 선바도 쓰기 진진의 메사디 zembi게 세나데다 빵모 바잖아 신나도 상상변의 상상중 사제바 마다바다 녀모 빵고 말이 마빵에는 빵자에 찬다잖아다 야 녀모로 베 카데장에데 다장바도 슈체와 여러다 삼박이 천하긴 짐바 려던다 짐바 당 지미 지세데 아니 진진슈 랑진진슈 체송 된 거는 도구로.
So here the Pratyeka Buddhas and Pratyeka Buddhas and Charvakas, although they have completely abandoned their cravings in order to craving towards self and craving towards phenomena and so forth are equally abandoned. However, what is still taking place in their continuum, their stream of being, is the self-cherishing mind. The self-cherishing mind is still there. It is therefore they are unable to engage in the working for the welfare of entire sentient beings, unlike bodhisattvas. The bodhisattvas not only they actually have abandoned that craving for the desired object, but also completely abandon the self-cherishing mind. But they are solely dedicated themselves, and whatever the activities they may engage is solely for the welfare of other sentient beings.
파신 디발레스 데이터 통치 최종 원인데서 델라다게 가지 달라 매치 덴저 미존 노도 양다양 조비 상제 윤대 젠정와 강라여바 상추 셈바시 상제 상주 미처 젠주 송셰소 송도.
So here now the compendium of the profession says, all these things are yours. I have no pride that they are mine. Someone who has these amazing thoughts repeatedly and emulates the qualities of the perfect Buddha is called the Bodhisattva, so said. The inconceivable Buddha, the supreme beings.
다 상추 선바세디 전해지는 건지 변는 너를 된대로 대다 당지 최중의 버려서디 마소 데로와 가서 리동로식 연소대 제바 아니 선제 타지게 된도 당사한테 리동로식 연소대 제바 선제 제제를 인자네 대행이 논시를 대행이 주보를 대행이 지지를 생이게 다기래다 텔라 말은 되는데 샤오에 시비 나제 되는 말 매송도 상추 선바속이 데로와
Bodhisattva says here now, all these things are yours. I have no pride that they are mine. What it means here is now, everything that belongs to him or her, the Bodhisattvas, they have actually turned them away. They actually turn it to others. They actually dedicate towards its welfare of other sentient beings, including their body, their resources, and their accumulation merits, and so on and so forth, are all given away. It is, mentally, given away to all sentient beings. So therefore, it says, all these things are yours. I have no pride that they are mine.
된적이 매대 쇼이 투상 시도데 아니 상제기 지선답에 연대 치바 전제래 된적이 연대 치바 전강에들 상주 선바세 그래 소로
Such an immaculate quality possessed by the individual is what we call the quality of venturing on the path to enlightenment. And those who possess such quality is said to be the bodhisattva.
당 가서게 배상원에 여바 맞아다 가서게 피게들 자체 지체다 가서 초바 제트고 말이 가서 로이리 쇼고 말이
So if you were to think about such qualities that we talked about earlier, the benefits and qualities that we talked about earlier, something that cannot be fathomed by us, it is beyond it is inconceivable for us.
된적이 근데 신제 쇼바 몽보지는 상주 선바 주요선다 제네 할리 상주 선바데 간데지 차게 상견이 진도와 간서로
So it is so amazing to think about, if someone who is really perfected in practice of the bodhisattvas, how this person would be, how this person's personality and its attitudes and so on and so forth. It really, amazes us, even just reflecting on the, the attitudes and the deeds of the bodhisattvas.
신제색으로 신제 야로도 쇼바 좀보트는 예소나 아니 아마디 부고라 가스기 짜와체는 부고서 아마를 생산해도 오라 경영이 찾는 로탄들이 양도 쇼바게 받던 레소는 베데 아마디 투제 돈서는 제 참으세요 말어 제가 저기 저봐 얘는 가서 너무 무슨 게시워라.
So this is how it is like, when you the bodhisattvas that they're cherishing for the welfare of other sentient beings, it's like a mother who cherishes her only child. The more the mother intensifies her caring for her only child, the child will be more obedient or loving to his or her mothers. However, this is not necessarily something that can be granted. But sometime again, regardless of how the mothers mother intensify her caring for a child, but sometimes the child misbehaves, doesn't really follow the mother's instructions and so on. At present, as your determination has not matured and is weak, you do not actually give away flesh, etc., though you have already mentally given your body to all beings, according to the compendium of trainings. However, if you do not train in the thoughts of giving away your body and life, you will not become accustomed to it, and so you will remain incapable of giving away your body and life. Therefore, from now on, cultivate this thought.
피세고 레다 단타기 차내시나 이 센터던 류기 내가 강기 차내시나 무슨 비트에 때도 여 말이 매나야 다다 하나 피기 로디 항상 양거를 송도와.
So at the moment, our cultivation of our engagement or practice of the bodhisattvas did is mere aspirational bodhisattvas, aspirational bodhicitta, in other words. It's mere followed by the aspirational bodhisattvas. We aspire to engage in the bodhisattva's deed or giving our every resources, one's body and so on and so forth. But we are actually not able to do this at this point. However, it is very important for us to really to accustom our mind with such practice, or our attitude of giving with such practice. Accustom one's attitude of engaging in such practice is very crucial right from now.
Did you want to know that they are going to allow me to go to Gaiamis? Kumbala Lesona, any Lelho Machagi, Nobochi in the Yamar City, Lu so dying telling Lelho Chagi, Nobochi, several seconds.
So therefore, we have saying in the text where it's stated that if one engage in and the meditation or familiarizing oneself with such practice, and eventually such practice will become something but very obvious and very easy for oneself. There's no such thing that cannot be learned by contemplating and by familiarizing oneself with such. So therefore, in such practice of giving away, not only by praying but also actually engage in such practice of giving out one's bodies and resources and so forth, can be accomplished as a result of consistent practice.
Kumba Shesi the Karisana, that point Yanda San, Senagi Nimi, the Yanda San, and Tintriki Sana Done, Bezache at the Roa. Masukasi Iba, Masu Tanda Sache, Digi Lid and Digi Dandal, Yada Nombago, little so you are Chibaja said, Mesamba Zen did, Tintriki Masoki, Jenny, you don't want to switch it since each other. I'm a tumble Donna Chana is in the Roa. That Tintriki Zing, Chanagi, Sachin was in the Midi, Yabu Mindu. Mite te tanda ne tosha wa yaso tele jemba ye ni jache me debu yuan de se ye ni jembi pen da ni sana gi nyimi to sa ba yang de do dan de ro komba sana.
So this is how we familiarize ourselves with such practice, by contemplating consistently on the advantages of practice of generosity, and contemplating the disadvantages of not engaging in the practice of generosity. So think about our body. There's nothing that one should be attached to, because it is, as it is stated in the text, where in the scripture, where it's stated that our mind is momentary. Our body is momentary. It's just like a bubbles on the water. It will vanish in no time. So there's no something that we need to crave, and looking at such body, the fragile body, is something that is very solid and permanent. So therefore, it is very important for us to really to break the image of the grasping, the way we grasp onto it. The object that is the grasping of that object must be break by the contemplation of the benefits and the disadvantages.
Nanga cheshode, and Nasoki Metuja de Ka Tugu Medus and Taji Karanalo and Yane Cheto Dusro, Mituka, and Natangayo and Sympathy Jeans and any Goshuro Tatu Meduse.
So we are unable to really to raise our head. It is because we are remaining under the domination of self, grasping at self and grasping at self of phenomena, or grasping at mind and grasping at me, grasping at I, which binds us, which actually confines us and not allowing us to really raise our head.
That Cherangin Simba Taharangi tell Jensen do the Midu take Tadapal Tom, Tadapal double job the Midu, Zenaba Yusha the Mazo, G Soso Sana de Sosogi, Sana Pegi Chunjun, Soso Sana Koshepa, Tadapal double Jelshada, and Tanda Tamas came into Hamayava, the Teresana Chipitan, the Yaji and Domindua. Yajam Dobigonia Sarsan road, Zubina the Dundi. That Sonachi Yabu Majerimado, when a quarter to reach you go to see Sonachi Sona, got Tanda Bename, Sony Mename, Nani Mename, Sona Shuchimbaji, Delegate Tanda Chimbaji Jandala, and Shibuli Jaja, Tenamasu Yurumajeda.
So, sir, if you look at ourselves, and we have been cherishing this fragile body right from the beginning this time up until now. Think about even in this particular life, right from the birth that we have been, cherishing and looking at this and as a very precious and something that is worthwhile to be taken care of or attached to. So if something that we can gain out of having a strong cherishing of our own body and so forth, it must have been justified by now. However, it's not so. The more we cherish to this body, and the more problematic situation that we experience. So therefore, such cherishing towards one's body and so on are something that is not worthwhile. That is what we need to think about.
Okay. Tangasoke Logito, Tandaba Logito, and Tangato Nambiche, no, Sere, Jibutamadan Logilama Tangina, send the Lotone. Any better Loton Shangela, a Deji Tangi Jimato, but send the Tambos in the Deji Tangi said, Logino, Tanagaza Nambi, Jonyo Mari, Zambili Logitona, Jonyo Mudua. Mendo that did Jesus Mando and the co so tankoron, Jomaji Sogre, and Togotan Sogro.
So here now, if you look at all those, the stories or the biographies of the great masters of the past, none of those biographies can explain that such great beings, the sublime beings, who have gained the state of happiness by not getting rid of, their attachment towards their present life. So all of them, not only by the Buddhist, masters, but even, I would say that all religions of the great masters who have gained their objective, which is the state of happiness, is by, by letting go of such cherishment towards their life, their present life.
Tangazo Tamba Chande de Tanda Kudi Koron, Yazang, Jingatsu Jibo Kazajin, Chunju, Jen Tandu Yenere, that Tindriki, Telamaso, Sensi Janaya, G. Sanji, number Tembare, Juba Tembares and Yunaya, Tanda Jero non she, Tanda, Casetamu Legion to Secala, Tanagasogi, Tanda Gichi, Tepion Keshi, Keke Maroa, J. Maso Tameba, Senere, Tameba, Tindriki. 지와주네 셰용이 근데 가서 강연으로 하지 아니 수천도 담을리질 담바데 로직으로 돈은 데려와라.
So if you look at
얘를 진짜도 공부수 준비 온 용바지 세부 세장으로.
So this is how all those great beings have really developed their inner quality by familiarizing themselves with such practices, following those practices. If you look at the stories of the Buddha, not only the present Buddha who was born as the Prince Siddhartha and so forth, but also the Buddha's the previous the successive previous lifetimes, his previous lifetimes. If you can think about his previous lifetimes, here he has taken numerous different kinds of rebirth, and familiarizing with such practices that we have already discussed about that during our our previous teachings, that how the Buddha actually engaged in the practice of generosity by even giving out his own flesh towards to feed the hungry mother tiger and her cubs.
됐지. 당가서 대수 최초기 돈으로지. 당가서 이제 된데 돈은 계속 시행도에는 이제 전부 가서는 뭐 로봇 장애를 세대 강가 가보 장애는지. 이게 말 코로나 안에 세대를 근데 코로나 센데를 아니 besoto yoga matse shikala yani shikabo jeso se ando da tanga bebe loji to no mo yore nje yedal je jela ne ba shege du ko chala la cha sha se ne mo je ti jo ala jinsi de logo nge mo ba chungare.
So here now there's a very difference in someone who may be as a considered to be being a wealthy person and who is willing to giving away their belongings to others. And there are other individual who may be a very wealthy, but who is unable to engage in any practice of generosity and so forth. When it comes to those two, at the final, departure, or at the ultimate departure, in other words, at the end of their life, that's a different feelings. They have a different experiences. Both of them, these two individuals, have a different experiences. We have in Tibetan that saying that there are many who are very much attached. The wealthy individual who, after they are passing away, they have too much attached due to the too much attachment towards their belongings. They even have taken a rebirth in a certain formless spirits, and due to the strong attachment towards their belongings and so forth, and so much so that their the, their their families has to engage, invite the masters to actually perform the ritual of fire, fire rituals, to really to let that individual not to wander in such existence, but to pass away to the certain realms.
나가다 가서 최초에 놓는 조대다 유보된 조대 생인데 최초는 계제시에서나 세나 유비네 조대민세네 노롱시 가세메가 가세요나 세나 쇼체보여서는 유보를 만든 조대 말에서 추시 쇼체보 영해지나 노롱시 시라면요 조대를 만도 유보 말에서.
So now here, according to Dharma, the distinction between the wealthy and unwealthy, or the someone who is not wealthy, is made on the basis of whether or not someone who has, it is not really made on the basis of their resources or their belongings or their positions, but rather it is made on the basis of whether he or she has a contentment. Someone who doesn't matter whether he has a lot of positions and a lot of resources and wealthy, so long as such individual is remaining under the domination of the stinginess, then such a person is not said to be a wealthy. However, with someone who may not have much resources as other person, but such person's mind is completely contented, and such is said to be the rich or the wealthy person.
나와나 대가서 리롱시 견소 제가 생생라 나 피차와이나 만나 배쳤던 간제 당 그래스 마다는 이미 간저스나 이 배쳤는 되는 또 대다 삼바타바는 생생라 땅이 세고 땅내 칸소라 쇼바 나사 현대든 대다 시바 샤오는 비 삼바 제네 randeau 세베셔나 뉴모진제 동화당 세바네 메라 신체라 미빈 뒤신 조바 제바 신체 전시기 실 차나네 뉴모제 마인비 동화오 젤랑모바데다 젠제 제스 뒤신에 랑기 실 셔나 니 마젤렌 주위 렌탄 차나 소다제 폼반제 토딜레 송소 송도 도제로.
So here, if if you use food, clothes, and shelter, and so on, that you have sincerely given away to all beings, and you do not, you do so with craving for your personal welfare, and forgetting the thought, I will use them for others' welfare, then you commit a major infraction. When you have no craving, but forget to apply the idea of focusing on all living beings, or if you use those resources for a particular living beings out of attachment, you commit a minor infractions. With regard to the material goods that you have turned over to others, the compendium of training states that when you use them for your own welfare, fully cognizant of their beings, the property of others, you are stealing, and if the total value is enough, you commit a cardinal transgression of the vows of individual liberations.
됐지. 제가 좀 배니 선나동거에 뺏게 참으로 내가 좀 잡어 되지로 다 삼바 타번에 현라 제차와지 근데 현라 제차디 아니 예라 소소게 놓으셔나 아니 선제 현라 제차인세의 선나디 땅에디 배디 타지 선나동에 제네 아니 잘라들 아니 윤조 차바제네 세바선 차바제네 내가 제소나 아니 콜레 녀모체 그래다 녀카여래다 세지리.
So then here, what it says here is now the first paragraph where it states that if something, your belongings or whatever, the clothes or shelter and so on and so forth, you may have given away to other beings. But then for somehow you have, for some reason that you have forgotten that those belongings, those are those are the things that belong to you previously, but you have given away to others. But you forgot that you have given out to others, and you still have a craving towards that. And not only do you have a craving towards that, but you use the belonging that's already given to others. You're making your on a personal use. Then that is the infractions, the infraction of one's vow is in fact the major of infractions.
다데 저도 저도 코란지 제는도 고대고도 이네 코란지 맞아도 고 가고 저래. 양 선제 전다 집변에 가족이 집변에 니 잘라 집어 니 잘라 집에 전달을 제차와 제차와 되는 양 가로 게게 첼 차바만 생각하잖아. 이게 매 전달을 제차에 배제 못도한데 텔레전에 매 전달 질러 선도나 이네 녀마제 많이 비동하지 그래 손도.
So then here it says that when you use them, it says with regard to the material goods that you have turned over to others, right? And that when you use them for your own welfare, fully cognizant of their being the property of others, you are stealing. And if the total value is enough, then you commit a cardinal transgressions of the vows of individual liberations.
배는 안 되지 경론지에나 다른 게 배는 렌탄차이 배는 렌탄차와 세서나 배는 잘라데 꼬발라 때네 칭게 차와지 년까지 저거래 다 간제 렌탄차와서는 넘바 소소의 렌탄차이 세트 가가요래 간제 대 꼬발라 때네 코 칭던 게바게 배는 칭콘노는 해 로고바다 드리지를 차서나 렌탄차이 잘라 배는 던저기 렌탄차이 잘라데 게 메제다질 제차와제 아니 제차와데 파쇼기 때 콜라 제차와 하고비 돈에 네 연조 잘라데 게 배저 동서나 나 견론 있잖아 아니 소다게는 판반적으로 해서.
So here now, if whatever the things that is given to others, but then again at the same time that you use for yourself, and that particular things is the value, the required value is met, and then this will for the transgression of the vows of individual liberation. That is what is meant by. There is certain values that is required to be met. It is not everything that you take away will become a transgression for your individual liberations, but there is certain value which is required to be met. If you have completed that the value, or whatever the things that you have taken from others, something that meets the value that is required then this will become a transgression of your vows of individual liberation.
That's that Jene Galoina Kasar Raji Mato, the Chipicana Mato, Inganjura. That the Jene Galos came in Kaje Majiba Nepa the Satar, and also Luchi Jinona. Rentan saying the Jenda del Chevache, Cheva the Pashu Hakovache, and the Dadu Zonsabe in Jela, so get Parabi Hamoi, Noshosona, Casa, Megua Chigino, Majiba Lambi, about the Chevre.
For the ordained beings, if the ordained beings have already given away his or her things to others, and then the particular things that is given to others, if you use by yourself again, without the permission of the person whom you have given away, whom you have given, then you are transgressing your vows at the ordained beings, the ordination, the vows of the ordination will be transgressed, or with the degenerates. It is also, in fact, it says it will the transgression of the both, provisional vow, Chebe Kanamadova, provisional vow, and Raji Kanamadova, the vows of the natural transgressions. So both of those vows will be transgressed.
맞아 너한테는 이는 후반에는 오한 세절에 다 나도 지금 피해들 저거서 선바 타반의 피해 맞잖아 잘라도 피해들 온사래 온사냐 피해들이 온 나를 제송을 세대 하마고 아이나 퍼즐들 나도 송한테 여말에 된지 오나요 매어인산에 콜 펌버 거기에 저기는 메시 간제 지 가서 네바 저그래 계속 네바 타치데 제잖아.
So sorry if I misinterpreted previously. That's the proscribed, the vows of the proscribed vows, which is Jepe Kanamadova, and Rajini Kanamadova is the naturally, natural transgression of the vows. So those are the two, proscribed. I said the provision, which is I misinterpreted. So here the Rinpoche again, further explained that if the ordained beings who have already given his or her belongings to someone, thoroughly from the depth of his heart and given to someone. However, for some reason, if that particular ordained member, the person, is actually used the belonging that he has given to others, then this transgress his or her vows, the ordained vows.
그래서 배 다도 송세데 내가 저 다도 송세데 되그래 배나 만도 지기는 타창이 잘라지 라송이나 아니 녀로 마동고는 파쇼지기라서나 파쇼들라 아니 마신발레에 녀바서 그래 펌번지 그래 녀 잘라된데는 다라고 말해서는 로동잖아 아니 바로 보들라 아니 가제 녀바지 연나야 저기 녀가 좀 펌바다 마신발레에 녀바쇼 좀 보들래 말해
근데 그 이게 이렇게 얘기했었는데 두 세.
나도지게 전통성이 잘라지 유샤지 라사지 라사네 당에 단다 치라거에서는 다도 손도야나 바로 보면서 지기라 제네 경로지 라서나 제네 경로라 펌 전통성이 잘라 인자는 펌번 중에 내가요 다 제네 경로면나 가제 마제발레 다 나도지 다라고 말해서는 로기 로동상이나 바로 보텔 때 종고 말에 또 쉬죠 다도 손에서 뺏게 첨부 그러니까 내가
for instance, if someone who actually lost his or her belongings, something that is that actually met the required value, then that particular the belongings, the lost belonging is found by someone. For instance, someone who is an ordained member, and the person who actually lost their belongings have not given away that gift, not given away that whatever the belonging that is being lost, then whoever found that particular belonging will transgress his or her vows, because the person that the possessor of that person is still not given away his or her belongings. He still have attached to that belongings. So therefore, if it is a ordinary member, such ordinary members will transgress his or her ordinary vows. If it is for the lay person, we're accumulating a negativities of taking a belonging that is not given to you. In other words, stealing.
Tela ngaso tene tsubatana mo tseuro pena me paino me chi pena gomo bochi ne jawro ma chela phiro chi sen minia jenda yamha chawa che ani ta kge sangi ta leso se danse te yo mare minia yamha chare ti paru la nyakha chonso na kari chongo chongo mare se te tsuba mo boya re tsuba mo se ta yena ngaso nge to no ro chi ma to nyanga se che ma做前学的说给上到东呢，叫了的有下的有产业的人说呢，劳动位别给钱不，还是不的两个啥个嘛的。
So, so, so the reason why I'm elaborating this is like, if you happen to lose something, for your belongings and so forth, we as a practitioner, it is good to just let go of it. Think about, just you should not have attached to that. You shouldn't have, have strong feeling and attached to that the belonging that is already being lost. So if we are able to do this, then whoever found that particular object will not actually transgress his or her vows.
Tiko ika wad ma kachi mumbo yungdo nga ma tsaya ke chayin da sama so wad na kono tochen rawa de nyembo teni yungdo sanyi jele chako. Tanga su mwa jing da dayo karsan dui kola tochen rawa wad ndu tanga san jema yin tanga su mwa de che nga su mwa thoma meba na tanda pa da liu tang lo she genso de che pala cha ne ngo rawa de ya cha ma ji de 다지 라마 덤바 투베 오면 랑게 전체 차이 라면 버디스 아니 가딘라 되는 게 다지 문에 동이 편하다 아니 가사 아니 세니게 님이들 시비 돈에 문에 다는 게 더가랑게 아니 저기 랑야다 받들은 주네 아니 타입의 선제 타지 아니 랑들 치네 자신 선제 타지 뇨뇨 조베 선제고 너무 이제 터니버지 제가 제토가 내나 주변 라마노지 신경로 도서 아니 뭐하다 망하니까 자다.
Let's do our dedications here now. From the beginningless time up until now, it is due to my attachment towards my body, my resource, and my belongings and so forth. I have not been able to free myself from this unenlightened existence. So now it is due to the kindness of my guru. I have understood very clearly the benefits of engaging in the practice of generosity and the disadvantages of maintaining stinginess. From now on, I will do my best to the fullest extent of my ability to engage in the practice of generosity for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And I will lead all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment. May all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions please bless me to be able to do this.
도저 정계 고보뉴도 조예당 구르 미르나가 나야 나야 미테네르도 베네 소니 가다 양보가 세사바디 로베 모레 게동 조와노 너른 자예 원보 도주지 대모 세베 세로 교도요 잠베 양주 세베 제존네 덴베 레모 근성 롱주조 년년 주베 제노 년세쇼 랑게 시진 도베 랑주네 쇼자 제베 장베 도게제 로예 예제 면바 세세네 야예 덴바 유린 진주지 덴바 렌진 조게 마자모 처정녀보 주베 쇼데네 니제 첨부 예로 저바이 펜데데네 세와 세와쇼 세진자예 미종 체네 레조 상조 랑제 림베장 탄데 낭제 예나 베데시 자연 세바 렌도 종조지 라장 조베 텐진 조시지 게제 세제 메다 메메게 세로 그도 자예 아바이 나다 나다 제와 마조지 간제 대바 조라 주제제 세제 조라 좀바 대비세 도대 나제 나도 조시지 자시 장수쇼 조조엔제 주자라미 고세로덴제 나가 춘네 조저 제바노 로잔 덴베 드메 사손제 로예 미세 다도 네조제 가르라 고예 신강조 베나데와 마레 조베네 신레세원 덴제 자조예 자베 센데 보도 덴조제 자베 보 제다 쳔보도 근도 좀보 대양 대제데 예다 근제 제수 다노제 야원 대도 통제로도 원주노시 야원 통제제 화와가나 조도 마본 다신 계획 자원 되게 정보 실시로도 투제너
Thank you, Rinpoche.